A few weeks ago, a game shadow dropped out of absolutely nowhere. No previews, no ads, no hype. Something that is honestly pretty unheard of in the modern AAA game industry. This game was Hi-Fi Rush. By now, many of you have probably at least heard of the game, but haven't played it nor really know what it's about. And you're probably wondering if it's any good. And I mean, yeah, it is. But for those of you who want to know why it's good, or perhaps even wonder why I would call it a near-perfect game, well, stick around, take a seat, let's have a chat.
Go ahead, have a seat. I suggest you sit down.
So what is Hi-Fi Rush? Well, it's best explained as an action-adventure game similar to Devil May Cry, but mixed with a rhythm game. Now, this is not a review, so I won't be discussing every little technical aspect of the game, but I do want to quickly touch on the reasons why Hi-Fi Rush is everything gamers have wanted in a new game delivered in a near-perfect package. No microtransactions, no always online requirement, not a half-baked remake but a fresh IP, and a game that actually worked on launch date with minimal to no bugs. Hi-Fi Rush feels like how games were designed a decade or two ago, but with a modern grasp on game design and a level of polish that could only be executed in the current era. Now, if I had to explain Hi-Fi Rush's appeal in one word, it would be satisfying. The game is immensely satisfying from the moment you pick it up to the credit roll. This sense of satisfaction can be felt in the very first moments of gameplay. With your first steps as the main character Chai, you realize his feeties are slapping to the beat of the music. The machinery around you is clunking in time with the rhythm. Hell, everything is in sync. This gimmick scratches that deep part of the human psyche that just loves absolute consistency in timing and sound. It brings an inherent feeling of satisfaction. It also reminds me of one of my favorite movies of all time, Baby Driver. In Baby Driver, the director Edgar Wright made many of the scenes sync up perfectly to the music. It's such a cool concept that honestly, I'm surprised it hasn't been done more. But back to Hi-Fi Rush. This sense of satisfaction becomes deepened once the player enters combat for the first time. The combat in Hi-Fi Rush is also centered around the beat of the musical tracks. Now, this isn't Osu or Beat Saber where strict on-beat timing is always necessary to win, but your attacks are queued up and delivered on the beat. However, the better your timing, the more damage you do, so there is an incentive to improve your rhythm. I personally think that this is a great way to implement rhythm combat without being too punishing or restrictive on your player. There are some moves that do require deliberate on-beat timing though, like when you finish a combo, there's a final hit that needs to be on time. The combat is honestly an incredibly fun and engaging system that rewards creativity and rhythmic playing. The combos and moves that Chai unlocks expands throughout the game and broadens what the player is capable of. A grapple shot to close gaps, a juggle to keep enemies in the air, a parry, companions who can be called in. There's a lot to chew on here mechanically. And I do want to say that I've actually never really played a game like Hi-Fi Rush before, and it was honestly a bit intimidating at first. One glance and I was worried it was like a fighting game on crack where there are these million combos you have to learn, which is only kind of true. I was pleasantly surprised at how easy it was for me to pick it up. It took a few levels to really get my bearings, but once I got going, I realized how intuitive the system really was. Which brings me to accessibility. Now, the word accessibility is thrown around a lot with modern gaming, and it can mean anything from journalists wanting an easy mode in Sekiro to implementing a colorblind setting or closed captioning for those who need it. Hi-Fi Rush, however, does a fantastic job at making its gameplay accessible to almost any player. Now, if you're deaf or just not musically inclined, Hi-Fi Rush has a visual beat bar. This can be toggled on and off with one button on the fly, and was actually really useful for me in the first hour or so of gameplay, until I really got the hang of the rhythm. The game also has 4 difficulties, with the hardest one requiring strict beat timing, which makes the game closer to a real rhythm game. I played the difficulty under this, and it was moderately challenging, but not too hard, forgiving enough for someone who was too intimidated by the idea of having to hit everything precisely on the beat. The easiest difficulty probably has enough room for error that really anyone could beat and enjoy the game. Now, something that Hi-Fi Rush does incredibly well is the speed in which new mechanics are introduced to the player, especially in regards to combat. By the end of the game, there's a lot of different attacks, mechanics, and rules to remember, but Hi-Fi Rush makes sure to never overwhelm you. Whenever the game gives you a new toy to play around with, it makes sure to center the next few encounters on it to teach you how to utilize it properly. Without this, I could definitely see mechanics like the parry getting lost on your average player. A lot of these mechanics also have a use while traversing the levels, so the game makes sure to have both combat encounters and platforming sections to help you learn the new mechanic. Overall, the pacing in Hi-Fi Rush is just really good. The time spent between fights usually consists of a blend of dialogue, exploring, and platforming. There are some cool tricks they employ for platforming in some parts, like shifting the camera to 2.5D, which makes it play more like a classic platformer. The platforming overall isn't too hard, but it helps glue the different arenas and set pieces together. It's enjoyable, and it's a nice cooldown between combats. The last combat-related thing I want to touch on intersects a bit with characters, and that's the bosses. The bosses in Hi-Fi Rush are incredibly fun and diverse. The fights vary from trying to drain a JoJo villain's corporate budget, to blowing up a giant robots, to fighting a musical diva on stage with her backup dancers. But it's not only in theme that these encounters are varied, because each boss also has unique mechanics. True rhythm components, dodging sections, and weird stuff like breaking out of a physical equalizer. Every boss fight had its own approach to utilizing the game's mechanics. It's pretty cool. Now, for a sort of rhythm game, I need to discuss the music. Hi-Fi Rush has a combination of both original tracks made for the game and pre-existing tracks selected from famous artists. I personally think they did a fantastic job at this, and all of the tracks fit the vibe the game was going for. The existing tracks that stood out to me the most were the 9 Inch Nail tracks that played on early in the game, the Prodigy track Invaders Must Die, which is just so hype and plays while you're being shot from a cannon to break into a boss's office, and Wolfgang Garder's remix of Beethoven's Fifth Symphony, which plays while you, spoiler, fight a giant mechanical wolf boss. It's awesome and thematically such a great track for the fight. The boss's attacks are so telegraphed because of the 4 on the floor beat of dance music, but it's just so fun and satisfying to fight to. This may be my 2012 nostalgia kicking in though. Outside of just the soundtrack, Hi-Fi Rush is absolutely full of musical charm. The small details and references really just sell the theme. The sounds that play in the menu, the names of Chai's attacks, the chant of the rock crowd that plays when your combo is high enough, and even the little robot cat being named after the famous 808 drum machine that made hip-hop. Hi-Fi Rush is a celebration of music culture in a lot of ways. Now, let's discuss writing. There was some talk when Hi-Fi Rush first came out about the dialogue being cringe, and it was compared to the recent game Forspoken that had just been lambasted online for its eye-roll-inducing dialogue.
I just move shit with my freaking mind! Yeah, okay, that is something I do now. I do magic, talk to sentient cuffs, kill Jack.
Shut up! Oh my god, I don't care!
And here's the scene that people compare to Forspoken.
If I'm getting this right... First, music player in my chest. Pretty sure that's not supposed to be there. Second, it's powering up my new robot arm. Third, it's making everything sync up with the beat. And... this sounds ridiculous.
Now, I do think the Hi-Fi Rush's writing is pretty solid, but I want to first point out that I don't necessarily feel like the Forspoken comparison is fair, and to understand why, I think one needs to recognize the context of these two games and their worlds. Chai exists in this goofy anime comic book world, and he brings along an almost delusionally positive attitude to everything. This is in stark contrast to the serious themes and setting of Forspoken. Forspoken's main character, Frey, is a traumatized, impoverished, mean street girl who brings a pessimistic, self-centered attitude to everything she does. This is why her constant quippy lines just feel out of place and lame.
Great, this is just what we need.
While Chai's feel right at home.
We are indeed.
Terrible, Chai. Just get in there.
It's not that silly writing is bad writing, it's that your character and world need to set the right tone for it to properly land. I also think Hi-Fi Rush's writing is just better.
I think I get it now.
You done me?
It's you. You're the demon.
I wouldn't say it would win any awards, but the game is clever and genuinely funny in a handful of parts, and typically is more than just fine.
I can help.
No! Wait. I got an idea.
Chai, did you just black out?
Maybe, I don't know. It doesn't matter. Watch this.
Take him in. Is that a weapon?
I don't think so.
I think he's resisting. Need to reschedule this.
Zanzo, I think you're muted, honey.
Oh, I was going to say.
Where's the good get you?
The writing also works better because Hi-Fi Rush has a cast of pretty likable characters. The main character, Chai, plays a lovable goofball wannabe rock star shtick pretty well. And he has a nice character arc of becoming a leader and is surrounded by characters who riff off of his personality very well. The serious and determined Peppermint.
I wanted to be my own person. I ran away from my family when I shouldn't have.
The witty psychology bot Cinnamon.
The macaron said expressions make me less off-putting.
The bashful Macaron.
Oh no. Does that mean I have to fight?
And the formidable Scottish Corsica.
So what does it look like?
That I just want to talk?
I think all my defenses did my talking for me.
Characters that I feel like really all serve as memorable and enjoyable additions to the team. The bosses are also super fun. Memorable designs, wacky themes, and overall just a lot of goofiness. Zanzo is a living JoJo meme.
I saw your reflexes, but how about your endurance? Let's give it a go, go, go! But enough talk. Have at you!
Rekka is muscle women personified.
You disrespecting me? That's it! The gloves are coming off.
And Mimosa is the perfect blend of narcissist and pop star.
What's the difference?
Thank you so much. This is so on brand. It's amazing. You're gonna be great out there.
And even the little robots you meet throughout the game are genuinely entertaining. The bickering bots.
There's arrows everywhere. Why not just make an easy to understand route?
Gotta question everything, programmers. That's why you got transferred.
The Evil Within reference guys.
The workers here need to know they ain't ever getting out of that hole they dug themselves into. This world is sick, dark, sad.
And most importantly, Smidge. Smidge is a smart fridge that gives you tutorial tips.
Want me to hit you?
I can see it excites you. So please, practice your light and heavy attacks on me.
He's awesome, and also reminds me heavily of Germa when he does that self-splicing bit.
Light and heavy attacks.
Small, get a big spider.
Overall, Hi-Fi Rush has a lot of charm when it comes to the character department. Now, I said that Hi-Fi Rush is a near-perfect game. It's in the title. But what does that even mean? I've been thinking about this for a while. What makes a near-perfect or even a perfect game? When I play a game, sometimes I just have this intuitive feeling like, damn, that is a great game. And in the moment, I'm not always sure why a game has resonated with me so deeply. But I wanted to try my best to lay out what a perfect game is to me. To do this, I have created the GAME acronym that touches on the main ways I think a game needs to excel to be great or near perfect. Number 1 is gameplay. First and foremost, a game needs engaging gameplay. This may be seen as controversial, and there are plenty of games that I personally hold dear because of their story that don't have great gameplay. But to be a truly great game, your gameplay needs to excel. As a player, I want things to feel intentional. I want to feel as if the developers thought through everything, that they added everything for a reason with deliberation. It shouldn't be a hassle to engage with your game. Number 2 is aesthetics. A game's graphics and looks need to immerse a player into the world. They need to play into the game's strengths and themes. That's it. They don't even need to be nice to look at. My mind here goes to an RPG Maker game called Space Funeral. Very, very ugly game. But that ugliness plays into the game's theme incredibly well, and honestly, the game needs to be ugly for the ending to hit at all. And I mean, sure, a game like God of War looks fantastic graphically, and that works for their story. But a game like Hi-Fi Rush would probably lose some of its charm if it was hyper-realistic. Number 3, music and sound effects. Okay, I chose music as the category to fit into the acronym, but really the sound effects or lack of them in a good game need to build the atmosphere for the player in tandem with the graphics. A perfect example, Undertale. Undertale is known for so many epic tracks and memeable sound effects. These sounds truly elevate scenes from the game. One of my personal favorites is when Asgore destroys the spare button on the pacifist ending. The shoo of his trident while Bergturung plays. Excellent sound design that shapes and elevates the game's atmosphere. Hi-Fi Rush is a game with a theme of music, and the music and the musical components elevate this game. Number 4, emotions. Now I know there's a couple gamers rolling their eyes here. 4chan is already typing up a whole thread about me, but a good game needs to make you feel something. It doesn't have to be tears or fears, but perhaps excitement, joy, camaraderie. Video games, like any art form, should serve to elicit an emotion in their consumers. Even a game like Doom resonates deeply with me in an almost violent, cathartic way. The satisfaction of a power fantasy of ripping demons limb by limb is an emotional experience for the player. This is how I feel about Hi-Fi Rush. To be honest, there's only a few times that got a traditional emotional response out of me, like this part, which was super fucking cool.
I don't need a guitar. I am a rock star.
But the game always elicits this deep feeling of fuck yeah. Fuck yeah is an emotion. Hi-Fi Rush nails all of these. It's a near perfect game. Some might even call it a perfect game. Go play Hi-Fi Rush. There was some online chatter about it the first few days it was out, but I haven't heard much since. It needs more players. It's so fun, and I haven't even touched the post-game stuff that seems to involve even more content, cosmetics, and a whole slew of new stuff. Hi-Fi Rush is on the Game Pass. You don't even need to buy the whole game. It's only $30, but the Game Pass is like $15, $10 a month, $1 if you've never done it before. Go play it there. Please, go, 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 go. Thanks for watching.